And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his image. In his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God blessed them. We may not have it all together, but together we have it all. And God bless them. The cake. We often enjoy cakes, you and I, if you are like me. But have we ever thought what actually made the cake? Some cakes are displayed in a very fancy display. An awesome cake plate. Oh, and we admire the beauty of the cake plate. Sometimes we admire the cake plate more than we admire the cake. And then sometimes we have a display of a cake. It's hidden. We don't really want it to be seen. Perhaps we're ashamed of it. Perhaps we feel that it is not ready to be displayed yet because it's not perfect in our sight. And then perhaps our cake plate is beautiful. It's awesome, it's gorgeous. But it's empty. Let's go back. And God blessed them. Let's go a little lighter. God bless them. Two completely different individuals pulled out from one and made into two. God bless them. She likes green, he likes blue. She likes red, he likes brown. She sleeps late, he wakes up early. She likes flowers, he likes baseball. And God blessed them. When we look at the them, we have to admit that God had to have a sense of humor to put two completely interesting individuals together and say, be fruitful and multiply. And God bless them. When I think of a cake, in that cake, there are various ingredients. Often we don't think about the ingredients, we just enjoy the cake. Doesn't have to be necessarily fancy, and sometimes it is, but if it's a good cake, fancy or not, it's a good cake. But have we ever really thought about the making of the cake? It has ingredients. It has eggs. Yes, it has eggs. And with the various properties that egg gives it. It's a cake, which we will discuss later. But for now, it has eggs. It has butter, with the various properties that the butter gives it. So it has eggs and it has butter. It has flour. Yes, it has flour. And of course it has sugar. Oh, I dare not see it or taste the cake without some sweetening in it. Whatever the sweetener may be. But are we through yet? Is that all? The most basic cake also has milk. Has milk in it. So far we have butter, eggs, flour, sugar, milk. But are we through yet? What cake would it be without a pinch? The best baker knows must have a pinch, just a little bit of salt. Little bit of salt. And whatever salt does to it, without it, one can tell the difference. But we're not through yet. We have butter, eggs, flour, sugar, milk, salt, and now some flavoring. Whatever your favorite flavoring may be is insufficient. It is immaterial. Maybe it's lemon. Oh, I love a lemon cake. Or coconut or cherry, butter pecan, or whatever. But what good is a cake without flavoring? Are we through yet? No, we're not through yet. It also has yeast, whether bought with the flour already in it, with the yeast already in the flour, or separately. It must have something that yeast does to it to make it a cake. So we have the eggs, we have the butter, we have the flour, we have the sugar, we have the milk, we have the salt, we have the flavoring, we have the yeast. Are we through yet? We have all these ingredients, but what good are they if they're just sitting on the counter by themselves? We need a container to place them in. need something to place them in, something to hold them in. Whether it is a fancy cake pan or just a plain old cake pan. Could be fancy. Could be. Or just a cake pan. Whether it's fancy or not, the cake will be the cake. But are we really through yet? We have the eggs, we have the butter, the flour, sugar, the milk, salt, flavoring, yeast, and the cake pan. But are we really through yet? If we had those things just sitting in the pan, would that make a cake? No, my friend. Then we have the fire, the heat, the fire of the oven that will cause all the ingredients to become extremely important, each one individually performing its individual gift, its individual purpose to its fullness. The butter can't do what the egg can do, and the egg can't do what the flour can do, and the flour cannot do what the sugar, the sweetener can do, and the sweetener cannot do what the milk can do. And the salt, well, it's not just important of itself, but it is important and much needed. And the flavoring and the yeast. And again, even the pan. For without any of these ingredients, there is a lack. There is something missing. And after all is said and done, we have the cake. Which brings so much joy. The wonderful cake that brings so much joy. Let's just listen to the joy and just enjoy it for a while. But after we've eaten the cake, how many of us sit back and wonder, what was the price of making this cake? What's the ingredients of the cake? Surely many of us have eaten cake and asked for the recipe. What's the ingredients? A very sophisticated and discerning tongue can taste some of the ingredients. Some can taste all. Can taste the eggs, can taste the butter, flour, sugar, milk, flavoring, salt, yeast. Can taste it all. But the miracle of the cake is that each ingredient was important in the yielding of the final product. But the final product is greater than each of the individual. The egg could not make a cake of its own, but without the egg, there would be no cake. The milk, the butter, the sugar, the sweetener, the flavoring, the yeast could not make a cake of its own. But without its unique ingredients that it brings to the product, the gift, there would be no cake. What am I saying to you, my friend, my daughter? You are important. Each of us are ingredients in this cake. For the male, my address is to the female. He is not like you. You are not like him. Though we came from the image of God, who made Adam and pulled us out. And he made male and female from the one. We each have our individual gifts and purposes. But through coming together, we are greater together than we are individually. And it will take the oven, the heat of trials, the heat of circumstances to bring about an awesome cake. But are we willing to release our individuality totally? Are we actually asked to release our individuality totally to make the cake? No. Because you and I that have done any kind of tasting of a cake can tell if there's no eggs in it, or no butter, or not enough. The miracle of a cake is that each ingredient yields its gifts and yet maintains its individuality. It yields its gifts for the benefit of the whole. It yields its gifts for the benefit of the whole, and yet remains an individual. We are better together than we are individually. You and I, we are the cake. Father, help us to be willing to be an individual, an egg, the milk, the sugar, the flavoring, the salt, whatever it is you want us to be at that particular time of that particular moment. But then be willing to yield to your will to make up the whole, to make up the cake. For in yielding my rights, so to speak, as remaining an egg, and joining in and allowing myself to be blended by the circumstances of life, to join in with all the ingredients, I become better together than I am individually. The cake. How is your cake today? Are you better because you've come together? Or are you better individually? Only God can bring about that miracle. And so I close for now. We may not have it all together, but together we have it all. God bless you. and stay tuned for more.